I think Valentine's probably forgotten his microphone again. Oh, there you go.
No, it's all like
he likes living in awkward silence every time we have a podcast.
I don't like living in awkward silence. Like, it's not my thing. You're making me look bad in front of Takunde. Like,
yeah. So interesting, Taco. What you're talking about, particularly the route that you took of making a PWA instead of a traditional app. And you're saying it's because you assume that people don't use apps that often. But I'm wondering, aren't you losing the shareability of apps? Like I could just send the APK to my friend via Share It or on WhatsApp or something.
Yeah, so about that, maybe I may have articulated it wrong. Me going the PWA route wasn't actually because of what you just said. It was actually originally meant to be an Android application. Because from a past project that I had, and also reports from Portraz and everything, I found that the bulk of the market with smartphones are actually using Android.
Okay.
So that's what it was actually meant to be initially. But then the developer that I worked with, hell of a guy, by the way, he then pointed out that, this is the general direction that apps are going across the world. And then he says, if you look at some really big apps out there, if you look at Twitter, for example, it actually has Twitter Lite, and that is a progressive web app. And then you have, he gave a few more examples, and then I actually looked it up. I was like, yeah, this guy is actually telling the truth. And then if you look at the people who actually run the stores themselves, like Google, for example, they are more interested in people using the internet as opposed to using the specific apps that come out of their Play Store. If I remember correctly, that's what they call it. The reason why they're more interested in people using the internet, because that's where they get the data on people and what they do, and then they sell that data for their ads and everything. So they actually gain more from you using the internet than you getting an app from their app store. So that's just one of the reasons. But the whole idea for me started making sense because I wanted to have it in Android first and then spread it out to iOS and then to Windows and everything. And I thought all of these apps are going to sort of be serving the same purpose, and not a lot about there is a fair bit of it that would be offline, which you can still achieve with a PWA. We're still getting there sort of to service the offline bits of it. So I thought, if I can cover all of these stores in one go and give them this offline capability that they would need, because if you look at a fully developed PWA, it actually has offline capabilities. We just haven't gotten there yet, but baby steps. So it was more of covering everyone in one go. And again, because of the direction that we're now going with COVID and everything, you will find that a lot of people are just stuck at home and they have a lot of devices that are on. It's no longer just mobile phones that they have in their gyms. You have people that are using tablets all the time, laptops all the time. But as long as you have a device that can connect to the internet, you can access Zimbofit. That was the main reason behind all of that. So I get what you mean in terms of, you could just send your mates the APK and everything instead of them downloading it. But I think the wider picture made more sense for me than that.
Okay. It does make sense. What you're saying, build once, deploy everywhere, pretty much. Don't have to have different code bases for iOS, Android, and stuff. So now I'm wondering, does this mean you're full on PWA until the end of the world, or at some point it's within your plans to then build an Android app, an iOS app, provided maybe there are benefits to you having an actual app on the device versus a PWA?
Okay. First of all, and this is neither a political or religious response. I don't think we're going to see the end of the world. I think at some point we're just going to die and the world will carry on. But to answer your question, I mean, pivoting is always something you can do. And it's also something that you cannot predict. It's a reactive sort of thing. So where I'm standing right now, this is my hypothesis, right? And there's a lot of possibilities for pivoting. I might find that as the app grows, people are more interested in, the meal plan side of things, and then I will pivot and start working more on that to service what the people need. I might then find out that um, at some point it makes sense to actually then go platform specific and start focusing on iOS and then Android and whatnot. So it's a pivot sort of question, which you cannot predict in this point. It will really be as the app grows organically, which direction are your customers actually leading you in. But as a starting point and as a base hypothesis, PWA is where I am right now. And then as for the future, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. So you just mentioned customers driving you in a certain direction. So I promise this will be like my last question for a while. But what has been the initial response to the app? Did you over design some things, under design? What are you learning from the implementation that you've done so far?
So my response so far has been, if you would have had the misfortune of seeing the first UI that I had, it was horrendous. But because of my background and it being my brainchild, I would see it in a different way to everybody else would. But of course, you have to validate your ideas. So each time that I would put out an iteration with my test subjects and everything, I would start getting different feedback and everything. So the main things that I've learned on the feedback is the UI, the usability of it, just has to work. People don't want to think too hard when they're working on an app, especially one that they use while they're doing something else. So it's been mostly on the usability of it. And then there's been things like, just how you lay out your interface. For example, instead of having a description of how you do an exercise, you have a GIF or a video of someone doing it, and then it makes more sense to them. Whereas I personally don't mind reading a whole paragraph of what an exercise does to my body, but most people, as it turns out, would just want to see a video, and then they just go ahead and do it. So it's been little bits of feedback that have been extremely useful, mostly on the usability side of it. And then the other more important side was the meal planning and health coaching side of it, the service in itself. People sort of normally expect that you will get a PDF sent to you to say, on this day you must eat like 6 eggs, and on this day you must boil them, and yada yada yada. Whereas the service that we've designed is that you are actually committed to a very tailored plan. You can just take, for example, we had the one client who requested a service for that, and then yeah, you go through an initial assessment, just like you would with any doctor. What is the problem? What are you trying to achieve? And yada yada yada. And then it turned out that with that person, it was mostly about her sleeping pattern more than what she's actually eating and the way that she's working out or whatever. So the feedback has been positive in that sense, that the tailored aspect of the app and its services is something that people are liking very, very much, including how, for example, you have workouts that are there, some paid, some for free, but you can actually design your own because there's a whole database of exercises which you can use to build your own workout. So those have been I suppose, the main points of feedback. We have gotten a few complaints really about, if I have no data, then I'm screwed. And, in Zim, our data is a bit expensive, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Um, that has been an issue, but with the market that we specifically target, there are people that don't really mind having data for what they want to achieve.